What if I told you Microsoft Recall isn't the dream it's made out to be? A so-called photographic memory for Copilot Plus PCs that's more like a privacy nightmare. What if I told you it silently snapshots every document, website, and email you view, storing them in a way that's left experts horrified? Imagine thinking you're boosting productivity, only to find your sensitive data, passwords, personal details, potentially exposed by a feature that's anything but seamless. What if I told you Microsoft's promises to fix it still fall short? Sounds like a digital disaster waiting to happen, doesn't it? It's presented as the next leap forward in personal computing, seamlessly integrating AI into your daily workflow, making you more efficient, more organized, more productive. The marketing paints a picture of a tool that anticipates your needs, effortlessly retrieves buried information, granting you a kind of digital omniscience over your past activities. It sounds amazing, almost too good to be true. But let's strip away the marketing gloss. Let's talk about what Microsoft Recall really is. At its core, Recall is a surveillance tool, plain and simple. It works by taking screenshots constantly, relentlessly, every few seconds. Everything you see, everything you type, everything you interact with, every opened window, every visited website, every email read, every document edited, every message sent. It captures it all. It builds a comprehensive, searchable timeline of your digital life, a minute-by-minute, second-by-second visual record of your interactions with your machine. This isn't just indexing files or tracking browser history in the traditional sense. This is a full, visual diary of your PC usage. Every single thing you've looked at, ever. And initially, when Microsoft first unveiled this feature back in May 2024, the plan was even more alarming. A stark illustration of a company seemingly prioritizing functionality, any functionality, over fundamental user privacy and security. It was set to be enabled by default on new Copilot Plus PCs. Think about that. Millions of users, many likely completely unaware of the feature's existence or its profound implications, unknowingly having their every on-screen action recorded, indexed, and stored. The intensity of the backlash, the sheer volume of negative press and expert warnings forced Microsoft to backtrack. It was a clear indication that their initial approach was fundamentally flawed and utterly unacceptable to a privacy-conscious public. They delayed the rollout, initially planned for June 2024, pushing it back as they scrambled to implement changes to try and patch the gaping security holes they had created. They announced a series of modifications aimed at mitigating the most egregious security concerns. By September 2024, Recall was shifted to an opt-in model. Users would now have to consciously, actively choose to enable it during the initial setup of their new PC. This was a small, necessary victory for user control, a bare minimum requirement, but it didn't alter the fundamental nature of the data collection itself. They also added requirements for Windows Hello authentication, using biometric methods like facial recognition or fingerprint scanning, or a PIN as a gateway to access the Recall timeline. Data would now be encrypted and stored locally on your device. But how effective are these supposed safeguards in practice? When independent security researchers and tech journalists got their hands on the feature and put it to the test, the results were grim. Real-world testing painted a deeply concerning picture. Despite Microsoft's assurances and the implementation of these new security layers, the sensitive information filters failed. Repeated tests documented by outlets like Tom's Guide in December 2024 showed Recall capturing highly sensitive data. Credit card details entered into simple, everyday, unformatted applications like Notepad. It captured sensitive data, including personal identifiers and financial information, from loan application PDFs opened in Microsoft Edge. Even with the filter-sensitive information setting prominently enabled and supposedly active, the system proved unreliable, inconsistent, and ultimately ineffective in preventing the capture of highly sensitive personal and financial data in scenarios users might encounter daily. This wasn't a theoretical vulnerability. It was a demonstrated, repeatable failure to protect the very types of information Microsoft explicitly claimed it would shield. Microsoft, of course, touted these changes as significant security enhancements. They presented them as evidence of their responsiveness to user feedback and their unwavering commitment to privacy. They introduced just-in-time decryption, meaning snapshots are only decrypted from their encrypted state when you authenticate to view them, theoretically limiting the window of vulnerability. What does this mean for you? It means that even with the shift to an opt-in setting and the requirement for Windows Hello, the fundamental, unacceptable risk remains. If malware manages to infect your system, and let's be clear, modern malware is sophisticated, persistent, and constantly evolving, or if someone gains physical access to your device and manages to bypass or compromise your Windows Hello authentication. That treasure trove of captured data, including potentially exposed sensitive information that the filters demonstrably missed, is still stored locally on your machine. It's a single, high-value point of failure, a centralized, detailed, visual database of your entire digital history sitting on your hard drive, waiting to be exploited. Microsoft's suggested workaround? Manually excluding apps and websites where you handle sensitive data, and providing feedback on filter failures through the Feedback Hub. But relying on users to manually configure security exclusions for a feature that captures everything by default, once enabled, is not just impractical, it's a fundamentally flawed security approach. It places an unreasonable burden of security configuration on the user for a system that inherently creates a significant centralized privacy risk. It's like building a vault with a known exploitable flaw in the door and telling users to just avoid putting their most valuable items near that specific spot. It's not a solution, it's an abdication of responsibility. This is why security experts like Kevin Beaumont continue to express deep, unwavering caution. Their initial warnings have been amplified and validated by the demonstrated filter failures. They warn that for certain users, journalists working with sensitive sources, activists operating under surveillance, individuals at risk of targeted surveillance or government searches, or those in vulnerable domestic situations, Recall presents significant, potentially dangerous, privacy landmines. The recommendation for these high-risk users is clear and unequivocal. Avoid Recall altogether, period. Furthermore, Recall isn't even a feature universally available to all Windows 11 users. It's exclusive to Microsoft's new Copilot Plus PCs, requiring specific high-end hardware like the Qualcomm Snapdragon X processor, a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM and significant storage space, at least 256 gigabytes total, with a substantial 50 gigabytes dedicated just for storing the snapshots. It also mandates features like BitLocker or device encryption. User experiences since the feature's quiet launch on April 25, 2025, have been predictably mixed, but the underlying privacy concerns continue to fuel negative sentiment. While some early adopters might find the search functionality helpful, others, particularly those more attuned to the privacy implications, have reacted with alarm and distrust. Comments and discussions on social media reflect this divide, with some users expressing enthusiasm, while others have directly compared Recall to malware or spyware, reflecting the deep-seated distrust the feature has generated due to its initial design and subsequent security failures. The fundamental concept of a system constantly recording everything you do on your computer, every visual interaction, even with local storage and encryption, feels inherently intrusive and unsettling to many, regardless of the potential benefits. The creepiness factor is significant and difficult to overcome, especially when coupled with demonstrated security vulnerabilities. For many, the answer, based on the current state of Microsoft Recall and the warnings from security experts, is a resounding and emphatic no. The potential for misuse, the demonstrated failures in sensitive data protection, and the inherent privacy implications make it a feature that, in its current form, prioritizes a questionable productivity gain over the absolute necessity of user security and privacy. It's a gamble with your most sensitive data, and it's not one that security professionals are advising anyone to take lightly. The burden of making it truly safe should not rest on the user's ability to configure exclusions or provide feedback. It should be fundamentally secure by design, a standard Recall has yet to meet. All right, that's a deep dive into the concerns surrounding Microsoft Recall. It's a feature with a lot of potential, but also some significant privacy and security risks that you need to be aware of. What do you think about Microsoft Recall? Are you excited about the productivity boost, or are the privacy concerns too much? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read and respond to as many as I can, and your perspective adds so much to the conversation. If you found this analysis helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel reach more people who need to know about these important tech issues. And if you want to stay informed about the latest tech news, security vulnerabilities, and privacy issues, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future videos. We cover a range of topics from breaking tech controversies to in-depth security deep dives. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.